All right, guys, welcome back to the WatchWell Podcast. We're excited for this one. We're always excited around here about talking about movies, Nick. How was your week?
Good week. Got to watch The Dark Knight, so it's always a good week when that happens.
Yeah, Dark Knight. I actually watched both of them, Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. So
See, I thought about it, but I wanted to wait. I wanted to talk about this one and then get to and then I'll watch the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it countless times. Regardless.
It's probably a wise decision. I just forgot how epic these movies were, and I just couldn't stop. So
yeah,
that's where I ended up, is watching both of them. So
yeah.
Well, I'm excited for this one, so I want to hit the ratings and jump right into it. I don't really have much prepared, so we'll see where the conversation goes. I'm sure you have a lot of things to talk about, and
I got a little bit.
We'll go from there. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. So let's jump into the ratings, okay?
All right. So The Dark Knight, just as always, we want to provide information just in case you don't already know it, so that you can make wise decisions about what you watch and what you don't watch. So, or what your kids watch and what they don't watch. The Dark Knight is rated PG-13, and that is for intense sequences of violence and some menace, which is interesting. I've never heard the word menace referenced in a rating before.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, it makes sense for the movie, but
it does.
What's the standard level of menace that crosses you over to rated R?
I have no idea.
I don't know how you measure. I don't know how you measure menace, but PG-13 for intense sequences of violence and some menace. And Common Sense Media, the official rating is 15 and up. And then parents say 13 and up, and kids say 12 and up. What do you think?
See that? I think I agree with the 12 on this one.
Yeah, me too.
I think that the
kids got it right.
I think the kids got it right because I don't know. I have to say that I think Batman Begins, so last week's movie, I think Batman Begins is more frightening in terms of monsters and scary images with the Scarecrow than The Dark Knight. Now, The Dark Knight is a darker movie than Batman Begins.
For sure.
Only because, how do I want to say that? The level of psychosis that the Joker is in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, the Joker's definitely, it's a completely, we'll get into it a lot more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead.
I mean, he's just the personification of everything evil.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So before we get into the movie, this was released in July of 2008. So if we were to go back in the time machine, where was Parker in July of 2008?
July of 2008?
Or just 2008 in general, like, what was life like in 2008?
Well, I don't know if I should age myself for the listeners, but I was much, much younger, so I would say life was much, much less responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're trying to get me to say that I was in the movie theater with you watching the movie.
I was going to get there, yeah. But yeah, so we were, when the movie came out, I think
Were you 2008, were you living with with me and my parents?
No, that was 2010.
That was 2010. Okay.
So yeah, that was 2 years later.
Okay.
So yeah, 2008, you, me, and your brother, Cody, went to see this movie on its opening weekend. It was an opening night.
Was Alex with us too?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Alex was with us too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember what he said?
He went, eh.
He went, eh.
Like, what are you? You shouldn't have even been here. Go home.
We did not invite him. We did not invite him to The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. But think about the world in 2008. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I'm going to get to the point where I want to kind of touch on this movie being a perfect example, or a perfect, perfectly timed, I guess. So like 2008, July of 2008 specifically, George Bush was still president, right? Mm-hmm. Barack Obama wasn't elected until November of 2008.
Okay.
So like the things going on in the world. We've got the war on terror still happening. We're still looking for Osama bin Laden. All of that's still going on in the world. We got troops everywhere in the Middle East, like carrying out that. Troops in Iraq, troops everywhere, like weapons of mass destruction. We've got still very much in the wake of 9/11 in 2001, we're like still very much a world impacted by that. So you've got conversations about surveillance and conversations about, what is ethical? Can a government suspend their citizens' right to privacy if it's in the name of preventing terrorism? Like all that's going on in the United States, specifically in 2008. And this movie, The Dark Knight, takes all of those situations and somehow wraps it up in a superhero movie.
Right.
Like, do you see that?
I do.
Yeah, it's like this movie was perfectly timed. But yet at the same time, it's timeless. Like you can watch this movie at any point and it's incredible, no matter what.
Yeah. Kayla, my wife, actually watched this with me, and at the very end of the movie, she goes, like, that's just an amazing movie.
Right.
And she just looked at me and she goes, it's amazing.
Yeah. Transcends superhero or comic book. Like it's
incredible.
It's just a fantastic movie.
Right.
And another thing people kind of forget about, and if you don't know, I'm not going to hide it. When it comes to this movie, this is my favorite movie of all time. Like, I've seen this movie more than I've seen any other movie. This is not just my favorite Batman movie. This is my favorite film that I've ever watched in my life, and nothing really comes close, to be quite honest. This is just, in my mind, this is the best movie that I've ever seen. So I might be maybe a little too biased and maybe even a little too positive when I talk about it. But yeah, this is by far the best movie I've seen, in my opinion. But so if you go back, again, going back to 2008, a lot of people forget how popular this movie was. Like, because you see today, you have the Avengers movies, you have all of these movies that are making tons and tons of money at the box office. And this movie made, at the time, in its first release, made $533 million at the box office, which is still good by today's standards, but not amazing by today's standards. But if you go back to 2008, there was only one movie ever that had made more than $500 million at the time. So The Dark Knight was only the second movie in history to make over $500 million at the U.S. domestic box office. The other movie was Titanic. So, like, to put that into perspective, at the time, no other movie except for one was as popular as this one. Like, it is just, we've kind of forgotten. I feel like it doesn't get the credit that it deserves as kind of an iconic cultural moment, cultural thing that took place, because, thinking back to that, everybody was going to the theater to see this movie. And it felt like it was even more popular than things like Endgame, or definitely more popular than the newest Batman. But what do you think about that? Do you
I guess I would.
Back to that?
I do remember. I was a lot younger, so you would have been more aware of those kinds of things than me. In that, 2008 is that what we said?
Yeah.
So I think that, I guess I would ask, are you more in tune with the hype of that film back then and less in tune with the hype of, movies like Endgame now? Because I think the Marvel films, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, I think the Marvel films, isn't the demographic, or at least the average demographic or age, much younger than the demographic that was going to see The Dark Knight that created all that hype?
Well, I do think, I think you're right that the Marvel films definitely target a younger audience than what this movie did. But I think what I'm trying to say is that this movie even transcended those markets.
Okay.
And it did so in a way that only one movie ever in history had to that point.
Okay.
Now, I mean, Endgame
meaning
and stuff like that.
Comparing it to Titanic, right?
Titanic, yeah. So Titanic made over 600 million at the box office. At the time this movie came out, that was the only film ever to make over 500. And so The Dark Knight, when it came into theaters and left theaters, when it left theaters, it was the number 2 movie ever at the box office. So now, I mean, you look at it, Avengers, like the Marvel movies kind of have this instant hype, like get there and then come, like get everybody that you possibly can in the theater and then get it onto DVD as quick as possible. Like that's what the Avengers, Marvel movies, and a lot of movies feel like that now. Get everyone in the theater as fast as possible and then get it to DVD so they'll go buy it. I mean, I think this movie was in the theaters for an entire year. It was just a different time, a different movie going habits were different.
Well, I think there is something to say about, like, okay, so The Dark Knight is a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And look at how many Marvel movies it took to get the hype of Endgame.
Yeah.
And The Dark Knight did it in what? 3?
One.
I mean, Batman Begins and then Dark Knight.
Yeah, The Dark Knight. The second movie was.
So I don't know if, like, if you like, do you know off the top of your head what Endgame made at the box office, or even the first Avengers movie?
So the very first Avengers movie was actually what, the 4th movie in the series.
Well, there were two Iron Mans,
Thor, Captain America.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if there was another one, but it was at least the 5th.
Yeah,
and that was the first one that was a really big hit.
Yeah, like, and then Endgame, they were what, 9 or something?
Yeah.
I don't really know that. I'm sure somebody can correct us if we're wrong, but I'm just saying that, like, even like as timeless as we've said that they are, I totally forgot how epic these movies were until I rewatched them recently.
Yeah.
Just completely forgot.
Yeah.
And you go to rewatch them, and just like I said, like about Batman Begins, the movie and the filming doesn't look old. It doesn't, like, that doesn't take away from the experience in watching it.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me. And The Dark Knight's obviously even better than Batman. And I know it was shot on IMAX cameras, but I don't know if that technology in those cameras make a difference in terms of what was shot when. Maybe a little, but not.
No, I don't know that it does, but so fun fact, because you mentioned the IMAX camera. They actually, at the time that this movie was filmed, there was something like 4 of those cameras in the world that existed, and they broke one filming this movie.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that. But
it was in the Lamborghini chase scene, or the scene where the Lamborghini Bruce jumps in front of the SUV with his Lamborghini, right?
Yeah, it is.
So cool.
So beyond that, obviously we're both, so far I think it's pretty obvious we both like The Dark Knight. We both think it's a good movie, but do you have any other thoughts on the quality or anything, like what you thought of it outside of what you said?
Nothing that is superficial. I mean, I'm sure we'll jump into some of the other things later in the film.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have questions for you, and now that we're talking about it, and they're kind of hitting me. So you can you can keep going with the ratings and the characters if you want to. The movie breakdown or the rundown.
Yeah. So I guess hopefully, I mean, obviously 2008, hopefully you've seen the movie, if not back then, hopefully recently, but so the story is all about the Joker. That is the central conflict, and there's more to it than just that, but that's the central conflict. That's the most memorable acting performance. Basically everything about this movie hinges on Heath Ledger's Joker. So what did you think of the Joker?
Well, I mean, we talked about this before the podcast a little bit, not, just in passing, but we both kind of agreed that the Joker is, I think your words were, the personification of just pure evil.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any argument there. I think I really, I mean, just off the top of my head, I know that they in the story arc of, all the different characters, Bruce is talking to Alfred in the cave, and they talked about the jungles in Burma, I think. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
When Alfred was in the military and they were looking for that man or whatever, and he said that they had to set the jungle on fire to burn him out. He said some people just want to see the world burn. They don't have any plans. I don't know if I'm bringing this up too early, but to answer your question, I think that the movie got it right, where there are some people in this world, and even further than that, there is a being in this world that wants to see it burn.
Yeah.
That's what I think of the Joker.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's another thing that I really appreciate about really the whole trilogy, but especially The Dark Knight, is that it doesn't present its villains as misunderstood. Right? There's so many movies that will try to get around the fact that its villain is evil. Like they try to, you need to relate to this villain. You need to understand this villain. You need to see that it's from their trauma, that they're just misunderstood, that they have good intentions. They're just doing the wrong thing with those intentions. And the way that the hero has to overcome the villain is through gaining an understanding of the villain. And there's definitely some elements where Batman has to try to understand the Joker, but the more he tries to understand the Joker, the more he realizes that he's just evil. He doesn't have any goals. He doesn't have anything he's trying to accomplish. He's just evil. Like what Alfred says about that thief that they were tracking in Burma. He just wants to watch the world burn.
Right.
And I appreciate that we don't have to, that some things and some people are just evil. So yeah,
for sure.
I see that too. But what about Heath Ledger's acting performance?
Well, I guess that's the big one, right? Because it killed him, or well, so. I mean, that's the story.
That's a theory.
That's the theory.
That's a theory.
And we can talk more about mental health. I'm sure that's on your list at some point. Maybe not, but
actually not. But
I think that I think, and I'm really trying to think hard, because I can't think. I know we watched Fences, and Denzel is an amazing actor. I know that there are some female actors that are just stellar. There's, a handful of them that I would put them up with some of the best male actors as well. But I can't think of anything. I don't know, maybe Joaquin Phoenix when he did the Joker, but even then, I don't know if there is a better acting performance in a movie.
I agree 100%. Like,
I think that there are close. I don't know. Like, you originally you kicked us off with saying this is your favorite movie. It's probably the best movie that you think has ever been filmed, and there's not much that comes close. I think that there are other acting performances that come close. But I don't think that there's a better one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
because Joaquin Phoenix, when he did the Joker, it was like, I still think that there with the Joker and Heath Ledger's depiction of the Joker and his acting performance, I still think that there's a sense of detachment to the character where it's still a super villain. So you leave the theater thinking, oh, those people, like, I don't relate to those people, kind of like what you were saying about the evilness, but even just those types of people don't exist because it's so out there. I left the theater after Joaquin Phoenix's Joker thinking, like, I could find someone like that hitchhiking on the side of the road. So I think that if I'm comparing the two Jokers, one just seemed more real, and that's why that depiction just seemed more real, which is why that depiction of the Joker, I guess, was more scary, I guess. But still, the lengths that Heath Ledger went to, I think, are greater, because that enhanced, or that enhanced version of the Joker, where he was still a supervillain, but that crazy.
Yeah.
He just became the character.
Yeah. And that's something that I felt like I actually felt like that was missing from Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Really?
Because when I watched it, I walked away thinking that's Joaquin Phoenix acting.
Oh, see, I got a totally different vibe.
See, I could, to me, I couldn't, it didn't feel like Joaquin Phoenix became something that he wasn't.
See,
like, obviously it's a character where he's acting, but to me, he was just like, almost like, like Denzel Washington in Fences. Like, you're aware the whole time that's Denzel Washington. He still does an incredible job, but you're aware the whole time that, oh, this is the way Denzel acts, right? This is what he does. It's good, but it better than good even, but this is Denzel. And
see,
so I felt the same way about Joaquin Phoenix.
I think that, and maybe I'm wrong here, I'm sure people will disagree, but I think that Joaquin Phoenix, I think the only reason why that may be true is because Joaquin Phoenix is, I think, or at least in my, I can only name a few movies that Heath Ledger's ever been in. I know a lot of movies that Joaquin Phoenix has been in. So just in terms of knowing of the actor, I think maybe that would be the only reason why I would have thought that, oh, that's just Joaquin Phoenix acting.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you look at the two Jokers and you watch the degradation into mental psychosis in order, to that journey from, I guess, somewhat normal and down on your luck to just constant life beating you down, and you just lose your mind. I think that the Joaquin Phoenix version of that Joker flawlessly, in terms of story, depicted that really, really well. Just flawless. But
Right.
they're two different types of Jokers, so I don't want to say one's better than the other, because Heath Ledger's Joker wouldn't be as good if you could connect to it like you do connect to Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as good.
That's the whole point.
And I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, yeah, to me, so I had seen almost all of Heath Ledger's movies leading up to this. So I was really familiar. I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind more than any other is probably, I mean, all of them were extremely different than The Dark Knight, but the one that I liked the most was A Knight's Tale.
It's a great movie.
So that's the one that I remember most.
He's also in a movie called Brothers Grimm, and that one's way out there.
Yeah.
With all the fairy tales.
Yeah. Is Matt Damon's in that too, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's actually one that I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very dark version. It's a very dark version of all the fairy tales, like, combined together, about the Grimm's brothers, who supposedly wrote them, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think that if I didn't know that this Joker was Heath Ledger beforehand, I wouldn't have been able to tell anyone that it was.
Agreed, but that's because of the face paint, and he looks so different.
Well, I think it's because of everything. Like, I could have told you, if I didn't know Joaquin Phoenix was going to star in a Joker movie, and then I went and saw it, not knowing Joaquin Phoenix was the star, I still could have told you it was Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, I mean, I don't know if
paint.
Yeah, but Joaquin Phoenix didn't wear face paint for the majority of the movie, so that's hard to say. I think that's a hard comparison to make.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying that Heath Ledger became the Joker in a way that I don't think Joaquin Phoenix did.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Like, he is. And I think that's part of the reason why the theory is that that's eventually what killed him.
Right.
But
who knows?
So, yeah. Who knows?
I think that that's a good conversation. It gets very circular though.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah. And I'm probably biased against that Joker movie because I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was any better than okay.
Yeah. I can tell you that The Dark Knight's definitely more cinematic, and I think that adds to the level of epic that the movie is.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think Joaquin Phoenix did a good job.
I won't take that away from him. I won't take doing it.
But he's just not. It's just not The Dark Knight.
Yeah, but also, I think the guy that they did the after credit scene in the Batman. You know, you had the Joker there, and then they had that deleted scene. I don't know if you watched the deleted scene that was released with the Joker. I think he did a really good job too.
He did.
And I mean, it's hard to judge off of one or two scenes, but it's still not like it's just still not to that level.
Right. And I think that going into Heath Ledger's Joker with Batman Begins behind you, I think that is a level that, you know, builds as well.
Yeah, for sure. Which it's interesting that you word it that way because Christopher Nolan, the director of the whole trilogy, actually says that the theme of The Dark Knight is escalation. So it's interesting that you say it builds, because the theme of The Dark Knight, in comparison to the Batman Begins movie, is how, you know, they say it at the very end of Batman Begins, where Batman and Jim Gordon are on the roof and they reveal the Joker card, and he says something like, you know, he's talking about the idea that the police by semi-automatic weapons, then the criminals somehow get automatic weapons.
Right,
and constantly
right.
There's this battle where every time the good guys seem to get an upper hand, the bad guys find a way to get an upper hand. And then he says, take this guy, for example. He wears face paint and leaves this calling card. He has a feel for the theatric like you. And then so The Dark Knight is the escalation in criminality caused by the existence of Batman. That's the whole theme.
Right. Right.
So it's interesting that you worded it that way, that it builds, because that's exactly what it does.
Yeah. Which leads us into an interesting point, and I don't want to, if you've got a structure, I don't want to take too much away from it, but oh shoot, maybe I just forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, so before I forget, superheroes doing wrong. Okay, So I think that if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this is the first time that a superhero does something wrong in a movie.
What do you mean?
While being Batman, and I know that we are gonna. I'm kind of referencing to the end of the movie a little bit, but while being Batman, it starts. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain.
Right.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. So the question is, did Batman became the villain? And it was built on a lie, based off of Batman taking the blame for what Harvey Dent did.
Right.
I don't know of another superhero movie where the character himself, Batman, sins for the betterment of Gotham or whatever needs saving, whoever needs saving, and it's celebrated amongst the people who are around, I guess. Do you have any thoughts on that?
A little bit.
Like the whole thing was built on a lie. He took the blame for what Harvey Dent did. So if we're looking at this through the lens of our faith, what do you make of that?
I think there's a very, very, very huge parallel to that very thing. But first, what I
Well,
thought you were
I
going
would
to say.
agree. I would agree that there's a huge parallel, but it's not based off of a lie. If I'm tracking with you,
True, but where I thought you were getting ready to go was the whole spying on every citizen of Gotham.
well, I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
I have another question that I want to ask you about that. Do you
okay.
want to talk about that one first?
No, I don't. I don't have
An
an
order?
order in mind. I mean, I have some things that we're gonna bring that I want to bring up, and some more structure that I want to get to, but it doesn't have to go in any particular order. So, so the parallel that I see is a hero. That whole quote: you either die the hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And so in that one quote, you sum up the entire journey that Batman goes on in this film. It sums up everything. It sums up his entire journey through the film. Is he literally sees himself become the villain, and that's the quote that he uses when he's saying when he's talking about the lie. But the parallel is, and you're right, there's no one-to-one comparison. So we're talking about how do we interpret this? How do we view it through the lens of faith? The parallel is Jesus Christ on the cross took a penalty that he did not deserve. He took a penalty as if he was the criminal who deserved that death. And on the cross, he took that penalty for people who actually were the criminal, who actually were the evildoer. And Jesus took that upon himself. Jesus became hated instead of those who should have been hated. Jesus took reviling and took hatred upon himself rather than those who truly deserved it. And I think that's the parallel to what happened with Batman and Harvey Dent in that situation, because I don't think you can look at a story, a fictional story, in the same way. You can't look at a lie in a fictional story the same way you look at a lie in real life. Does that make sense?
I want you to explain more.
Because it's pointing, because everything in a fictional story is pointing to something different. It's a symbol for something. It's not that, Batman isn't actually lying because Batman's not real. He's being written to follow this path of action.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the same. So for the flip side of that is if we're watching a true story about a cop who it was actually a real thing, who let a criminal go free and lied and said that he was the one who did, the wrong thing, or he took blame or cast blame elsewhere, or whatever that lie might be. That's an entirely different type of story.
Okay.
And so I would view the actions of those characters differently between fiction and then nonfiction.
Gotcha.
So, but in this regard, what I think is being pointed to, and I don't think, from what I know, which isn't anything, I don't know if Christopher Nolan is a Christian, but I think what's being pointed to is that idea of somebody who is innocent taking the blame of somebody who is guilty. Somebody
I guess I took that a little.
taking the blame of the guilty.
Which I took that a little different because he's not innocent. And I mean, in the, I guess, the framework of how I'm viewing this, it's the first time Batman, I'm trying to think because I don't know for sure, but I think it's the first time that Batman isn't innocent. Because he's set, I mean, and I know to your point, I think that you do have some merit to say that you have to look at the lie differently, which, I didn't really think about before. I think that's a good point because it sets up the entire plot for the third movie. But at the same time, you know, when we read in Numbers, I think it's 32:23 where it says what does it say? Be sure your sins will seek you out, or something like that. To paraphrase, I mean that's depicted across the second and third movie. So you have to look at it as if there's a consequence for lying across the trilogy. And I don't want to talk about the third movie. I'm just saying that there is a consequence for what Batman. There's a direct consequence for Batman and Jim Gordon, in terms of, you know, escalation. How we talked about earlier, there's a direct consequence to the lie that they told in order for Batman to take the sins of Harvey Dent on his shoulders so that Gotham can be lifted up.
So that actually might be something where I know a little bit too much about the development of the movies.
Yeah.
Because I know that The Dark Knight Rises, the third movie, was not the story that was originally planned.
Oh,
when The Dark Knight was finished.
Okay.
Because they couldn't do the story that was originally planned.
And why is that?
Heath Ledger died.
Oh, so then what was originally planned? Because I'm unaware.
They've never released exactly what was planned.
Okay.
Or what ideas they had for going forward. But what I do know is that if Heath Ledger hadn't died, it would have been a very different third movie.
Okay.
So Heath Ledger died during the editing of the film. So January before it was released, and so once filming was all done, you know, they had in mind something that they would do and something that would be the third movie that probably would have involved Heath Ledger's Joker, and maybe it's the case that this lie would still be the same thing, but it's more likely, in my opinion, and this is just opinion, that we actually see Batman active and being chased by police in the third movie if Heath Ledger didn't die. Because that's where we end The Dark Knight.
Right.
Jim Gordon says we will chase him, right?
Right.
But they didn't spend the next 8 years chasing him because Batman wasn't even active.
Well,
according to The Dark Knight Rises,
right, and I took that as Bruce Wayne. I guess I'm looking at the movies as I watch them.
Yeah.
Because to hide Batman, you just go into hiding, which is what, like, he just became Bruce at that point, and Bruce was different because of Rachel's death.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just kind of the way I viewed that, and why, you know, again, we're just talking opinion. I think it was interesting that in the first movie, it's all about Batman becoming Batman,
mm-hmm.
and sticking to a moral code.
Mm-hmm.
No weapons, and you see that theme through The Dark Knight. Due to the whole compassion thing that we talked about in Batman Begins, where it separates us from them. You know, he made that quote, and this is the first time where Batman isn't separate from them. So he uses sin to do the right. Like, so I guess it's fighting sin. It's fighting sin. It's fighting sin with sin, in a way. Is it not?
If you're viewing it as in the real world, I think so.
Right.
But like as a fictional story, it's more about what it's pointing to.
Okay,
so the idea. It's more about the idea that it's presenting.
Okay.
To me, that's just the way. So like, that's more so what I see, and I understand what you're saying. But the lie, as you're saying it, is that Batman says he killed people, right?
Yeah.
That's what Jesus says when he's on the cross. Or that's the way Jesus is treated when he's on the cross.
I mean, that's fair. I think that's fair. I think the right verbiage there is that's the way he's treated, not necessarily that he's saying that. But yeah, I that's a different way to look at it than I originally viewed it.
The way I look at it is Batman is verbally saying what Jesus did on the cross.
Yeah. No, I think that's right.
So he's
you're
saying,
right.
You live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can be that. I can take the weight of all this villainy and evil on my shoulders. I can take the punishment. I can take the chasing. I can take everyone bearing down on me as a villain,
right,
for the sake of Gotham's salvation.
No, I like it. Yep, we'll go with that.
So that's the way
I like
see it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, sorry for going around in circles a little bit, but it just hit me.
Good. This is a good conversation. I like it.
Watching it more recently, I was like, man, this is the first time that a superhero has done something wrong.
And you could still look at it that way. I'm like,
but the question. So the question is, I guess let's look at it from my perspective. We both would agree that any amount of sin is wrong,
right?
So then in real world scenarios, and this is like way off the cuff here.
Oh boy.
And I think this will lead into the whole privacy thing, but what is okay in terms of deception when you talk about national security, and when you talk about we hear in all these other movies, and we know in real life where it's like above your pay grade kind of things. Is lack of information that's valuable or vital to survival a form of deception? Where's the line, I guess, is what I'm asking. Like, what, in your opinion, what would the line be?
That's a really good. That's definitely a question that the movie puts at the forefront.
Yeah, like, because you can't, because like a real world scenario. If, let's take, I don't know, maybe we could take The Dark Knight. When they're in the boats. No, I don't even know. I guess the thing that jumps out to me is Armageddon, the movie Armageddon, where the meteor's coming. It's going to hit the planet and kill everybody.
Yeah.
Do you tell the planet, or do you not? Do you risk mass chaos and anarchy, or do you just let people die in their ignorance?
Yeah.
Is there a lie there that is sinful? Is it based off of the heart and the intent of why you're committing the lack of information? Is it? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Right. I think it's all of those things.
Okay.
I mean, and I don't know if I can answer where a line is, but the thing that comes to my mind is, have you ever watched 24, the TV show?
One or two episodes. Kayla, this is why Kayla should have joined in, because she loved 24.
Yeah. So Katie and I just recently watched it. I think we watched started in season 4 and went all the way through the end, but because I hadn't seen it from that point. But so that's a big question in that show too. Like, here's this, terrorist with a nuclear bomb just about in every season, or some type of weapon that they're going to use to attack people, and they have 24 hours to save them. Or they have 24 hours to stop it. If they don't stop it, then millions of people will die. Do you tell those people that they have a day to live?
Yeah,
or do you just go about assuming you're going to stop it?
Yeah, and the reason why I bring this up is because the entire movie is an ethics problem.
Exactly. Every part,
second of The Dark Knight is ethics.
Yeah,
that's what it is, and and that's the point of the Joker.
Yeah,
I think it's to draw out. Do you throw the child off of the bus, or the boat, or do you whatever the moral dilemma is? That's the point, is to get you to choose, and to and more specifically is to get Batman to not be innocent.
Yeah,
that's the whole point, and he succeeds because Batman lies at the end, and he bastes for the betterment of Gotham. He's got good intentions, but for Gotham to continue in a to continue being hopeful, I think that even though at the end of the movie Batman says, "But the Joker cannot win," I can do those things, and kind of like what you were saying. The Joker still wins.
If you view that,
yeah. I think that you kind of have to, because, I think both points hold validity.
Yeah,
because you have to, because it's the point of the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I think you can also make the same parallel where how you took it, where it's more metaphorical.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the ethical stuff that you're talking about gets right down into, are criminals as valuable as people who aren't criminals? Like, would it?
Well, yeah,
So
I would say yes. I mean,
Well, yeah,
looking
but
through the
they
lens,
are.
looking through the lens of your faith, you would have to say yes, because
Right.
they were bought at the same price I was. You were.
Exactly.
Our listeners are.
But when it comes down to life for life, when you think, if they don't die, I will.
Well,
when it comes down,
but that's still a choice, and the choice is, are you going to sin or not?
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with what the other person's going to do, because they have to make their choice.
But that's the ethical dilemma that's
Correct.
faced in the movie.
Right.
That's the thing where
they're on the boats, and
yeah.
No, I'm just answering the question in terms of like how we would view it through the lens of our faith in reality, where the Joker. Oh, I forget how he puts it, but pretty much that you can only control what you can control, and the decision is, are you going to remain obedient or are you not? I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we, in our Bible study, we're actually going through the gospel chronologically by event, though. So it's really interesting, because we're going event by event. So you're bouncing around Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, obviously, and somewhere in there, I think it was John. Or either Matthew. It said it's when Jesus is being tempted in the wilderness by Satan. And in one of those books that referenced that, it talked about how the measure of faith, you can't truly measure one's faith without temptation. And I think that the movie really plays into that, because, I mean, that's pretty much the moral dilemma that we're talking about is, are you going to remain faithful to Jesus and remain obedient when someone else might not, and it directly affects your ability to live?
Right.
And that's the question. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
So based on the way that you see that final scene where Batman says he was the one who killed the police and Harvey Dent was innocent, and Batman killed Harvey Dent. So that lie that you see in there, which I see that too. That is a lie in the story. That is for sure a lie. So based on that, though, and the Joker's goal of corrupting the best Gotham has to offer, right? That is to show that when people experience pain and fear of great proportion, when the stakes are really high, people will show you who they really are, and what they really are is evil. And that's the Joker's whole point, is to say, you guys are just like me. And he proves to be true in the case of Harvey Dent, right?
Yep. Batman.
Based on the way you see that scene, it's true. Proves to be true about Batman.
Yep.
About Bruce Wayne.
Gordon. Jim Gordon.
Well, I mean,
because he participates in the lie.
Participated in it,
and he's at that point he's the commissioner who is the police covering up justice, not carrying out the oath that he took to protect and serve Gotham and uphold the law.
Right, but it doesn't hold true for the people of Gotham.
It doesn't hold true for the people of Gotham.
For the regular, everyday people of Gotham, they come through. Because again, you have to look
you're
at
right.
it as
Yeah, because like you're talking about but even the regular people, but even the inmates. So like the people on the boat.
I'm including them in that.
Yeah, they did the right thing.
Yeah.
Especially the inmate that threw the detonator out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our heroes aren't good enough.
No, they're not.
But we are.
Right.
It's almost what it's saying.
Well, really what it's saying is the heroes aren't the heroes. We are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The average person can be the hero.
So then if we look at that, and we could, I mean, there's so much we can go into with this
Yeah,
movie,
this is good.
So does Batman make Gotham worse? Does the existence of Batman make Gotham a less safe place?
Well, I don't know if I believe that, because because if it's not the Joker, it's someone else.
Right, but the people of Gotham were able to withstand what the Joker wanted to accomplish. But Batman couldn't. Jim Gordon couldn't. Harvey Dent couldn't.
Yeah, but I would say... Yeah, go ahead.
The Joker doesn't exist without Batman. That's the theme of the movie.
The Joker doesn't exist without the Batman. But I would say if it's not the Joker, it's so I don't like the trajectory of thought that says the so I guess let me ask you this question. Would you say that that Batman is good? That Batman is that the I guess if all of it were real, would you say that Batman is good?
I mean, yeah. I mean, depending on how we're defining good, but in a general
sense, that Batman is good.
Sure, yeah.
Sure. Or at least
that
represents goodness.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Like good and over evil. So
not perfectly righteous, but
right. So what I'm saying is the thought that, or the logic that states that if good exists, evil will find a way to beat the good, so therefore the good shouldn't exist, so that we would experience less evil. I don't know if that is logically sound, because you should always increase the good to fight the evil, regardless of how much evil is there.
Right, but it seems like the theme of the movie is that particularly Batman himself causes escalation in what evil is willing to do.
And I guess I look at it as okay, so you either have Falcone or you have the Joker. Is any amount of evil, any amount of prey on the innocent okay?
No.
So then therefore if Gotham is so corrupt that it needs a symbol, because in Batman Begins he talks about being a symbol. He could be immortal. He can be those things that he lists off. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he could be immortal. Right. He can be everlasting, I think is one of the things he says. I think it's justified. I don't necessarily jump on the train of remove Batman and the Joker never doesn't exist. I don't know if or at least maybe the character.
That's the stated theme of like the filmmakers.
Well, what I'm saying is it just looks different. If it's all real, let's say it's all real, Batman doesn't exist, you're still going to have men that want the world to burn. He's just not going to be painted in a mask.
Right.
Is my point.
Fair enough. But the question is Batman the one who can actually help? Or is it actually the citizens of Gotham
No,
who can
I'm
accomplish
on that team. I'm on that
Yeah.
team where if you change the hearts and mind of the people themselves, you no longer have those that prey on the innocent.
Yeah.
Like if everyone understands that it's not about them, obviously love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. If you follow those, then you are the hero. I think the movie resoundingly depicts that well, especially with when they're on the boats. So yeah, the heroes are the people of Gotham. But so I guess your point stands. Your point stands in terms of if the people can do it, or I guess how do I want to say that? If you're obedient to like the Christian faith, that would take care of the majority of the evil. You know what I mean? Like you would be like if we, I don't know. I think you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm trying to say at least?
Yeah, I think so. But I think I'm coming more. So I'm not viewing the story as real. I'm viewing it as a fiction story with a point that it's trying to make.
Okay, go ahead.
So it looks to me like the point that it's trying to make is that the people of Gotham don't need Batman. That even in Batman Begins, it's Bruce that says he needs to be a symbol. Gotham doesn't say it needs a symbol. The everyday people of Gotham don't say they need a symbol, don't say they need something to follow, or don't say they need hope. It's Bruce that says that needs to happen.
So I'm gonna try to make a come up with an example on the spot here, and it may be a terrible one, so just bear with me. I would say the way I look at this is no different than a teenager. Okay? If you compare Gotham to teenagers, do teenagers need parents?
Are you saying Batman is the parent?
I'm saying that if Gotham as the teenager isn't going to choose to save themselves, even though they have the ability to as citizens, which was proven in the dilemma with the boats, they need someone to save them. If they're not going to do it themselves, someone else has to step in and do it, which is how I define their need. Which is how I define their need as, or is how I define the need for Batman. The need for Batman is as far, or is the citizens need Batman when the citizens don't choose to be the hero themselves. When they cease to be the hero themselves and make the good decisions, then they need Batman. If they choose to make the decisions for themselves on a mass scale as citizens with righteous choices and abstaining from sin, then they don't need Batman. But with the trajectory of Batman Begins, where Gotham is just this petri dish of corruption, they weren't choosing to do that.
But it doesn't say that the people on the boats are two entirely different groups of people than what has focus in Batman Begins.
Are they though? If you say the citizens of Gotham, you're talking about the police force, you're talking about inmates, you're talking about your everyday citizens, which would include those that are corrupt. When you have your entire police force,
I'm primarily talking about people who don't serve in governing authority. When I say everyday citizens, I would say people who aren't the governing authority, but people who go to work, who come home, who raise families, who earn a living. You know, those are the people that I'm thinking of when I say everyday citizens of Gotham.
Okay.
So they so I guess at the end of Batman Begins, they state the theme that Batman causes escalation in crime. because of his theatrics, because of his symbolism. The symbolism of Batman causes something like the Joker to rise to prominence. And then that gives us the jumping off point to all of the Dark Knight. Batman, the existence of Batman escalates into something like the Joker. You could parallel that to arms races, like the United States stocking up on weapons, or let's just as an example, stocking up on military weapons, acting like they're going to go to war when there's not an imminent war to go to, causing another country then to act out against the United States. We see that with countries all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you take the United States out of it and put a different country in there. We see that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like this seemingly good thing, even if it has good intentions, then provoking a response from the opposite side that is even greater than what we were prepping for.
So, yeah, I don't know what I think, man. I still think that the movie, I don't know. I think two things can be true. I still think that the heroes can be, I still think that the heroes can be the citizens, but when they choose not to be the hero, you need Batman, regardless of whether the Joker exists or not. Because it's a war. It's a war.
Right, but I'm saying, what is this movie saying? I'm not arguing whether Batman in generally should be in existence. I'm saying
right. Well,
what is this movie saying?
Right. I would say the movie is saying that there shouldn't be a Batman. Like I would agree with you. If you're just talking about the plot or the overarching question of the movie is Batman causes more harm than good.
Or does he? Or maybe that's just the question that it's asking.
Well, and that's why
it doesn't land on an answer.
And that's how I was answering you in those terms.
Yeah.
But I think we agree on the question of the movie. I just think that maybe there's a little bit of a disagreement in the answer.
Yeah. I was more so playing devil's advocate to hammer home the point of that question.
Right. No, we agree on the question.
Yeah. So
I just don't know that I would say that there isn't a need for Batman, because originally, I guess what I'm drawing on is my preconceived idea of what Gotham was in Batman Begins, which is the whole point of Batman, because it was so corrupt. Like, I guess my assumption is that it was so corrupt that everyone had a hand in everyone had a hand or took part in the corruption. You know?
Yeah.
Which is why they needed Batman. Now, maybe I guess we're filling in the gaps differently, but
yeah, because I don't see it as Gotham as a whole being corrupt, but rather the people who are supposed to be protecting Gotham are corrupt.
Okay.
So that's the way I've always viewed. So, like, the district attorneys are corrupt, the sheriffs, the mayors, commissioners are corrupt. Like, the people who are supposed to be in a position of service and serving the good of the people, instead of serving the good of the people, they're serving the good of their own wallets.
Right.
And that's kind of the corruption that I see in Gotham.
Yeah, and maybe
in to do what they aren't.
Right, and maybe I'm taking it too extreme in terms of how corrupt Gotham was, but they never. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they show any normal people, quote unquote normal people, who, like, when did they give the or when was it depicted that there are people in Gotham who don't take part of, like, when was that shown? Is there anything shown
in Batman Begins?
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce says it to Ra's.
When does he? What does he say? Do you remember the quote?
He tells him that there are people that believe in good in Gotham.
Okay.
When he's, I can't remember which scene, but it's
because I know he says that. I know he says that to the Joker.
He says something very similar to the Joker.
Gotham just proved that people are willing to believe in good.
Right.
Or,
but he says something similar to Roz as a reason that Gotham shouldn't be destroyed.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think I'm with you on. I still fall on the side that Batman is necessary.
Right.
I'm just not 100% confident that this movie is trying to present it that way, or not, or maybe it's just trying to throw the question out there and leaving it open.
So what do you think the question exactly is? Because I think we threw around a couple of different ones.
Right. So in the term, as it relates to Batman specifically, it's and Bruce actually, so point it to the scene where Bruce is with Alfred right after Rachel's death. He's got his bat suit on, but he doesn't have the mask on. He doesn't have his cowl on. He's sitting there in a chair in his bat suit. Alfred's about to hand him the note that Rachel left, and then he takes the note back, and then we see him eventually burn it.
Right.
And he doesn't give it to Bruce, but he lets Bruce think that Rachel was going to choose him when she wasn't. So there's another lie, right?
Yeah.
Yet another lie. An ethical dilemma. Do I let Bruce know this, or do I let it be a secret forever because he's never going to find out?
Right.
But in that scene, it's the same scene that Bruce asks Alfred if they caught the thief in Burma, and he says yes, and then Bruce says how, and Alfred says we burned the forest down. Right? It's in that same scene. Bruce says something like, have I inspired more evil than good? So that's Batman basically asking the question of the movie right there.
Right.
Of himself. Has Batman inspired more evil than good? Has he brought more pain than peace?
Yeah, but I still don't agree with that question, because have I brought more pain than peace? I think that's a very, I mean, I'm trying to gather my thoughts.
So Batman, he wanted to be a symbol, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to be a symbol to inspire. His goal was to inspire the people of Gotham, right? He wanted to be a symbol to show that the people of Gotham don't have to stand for the corruption and for the evil that exists in their city.
Right.
So the question is, with now, Batman views himself as the cause of the Joker. Specifically the Joker. So this question is specifically related to the existence of the Joker and the goals and the harm that the Joker is causing, the terrorism that is being that's happening in Gotham as a result of the Joker. Does the symbol that I've created did it inspire this evil instead of the good that I wanted it to? And then there's tons of
I still say no.
questions.
I still say no.
You still say no.
I still say no, because
even though at the end of the movie you say Batman ends up not being good and lies.
Yes, because I look at each individual thing as an individual choice and act. Starting something with good intent. Okay, so maybe another probably bad example, but you can love Jesus and want to become a Christian and still sin.
Yeah.
Batman can want to do something out of good intent, create a lot of change for good, stop a lot of corruption, stop a lot of bad things, protect a lot of people. And the Joker and the sins of the Joker are like the existence of the Joker are still like the Joker still bears the consequences and the punishment for his existence. Batman doesn't. They're two different. I look at them as two different things.
Right. But the filmmakers themselves say that without Batman, Joker doesn't exist.
I think that's, and I think that's wrong.
So,
I don't really care what the filmmakers say. Let me just say
that. But we're talking about this movie, right? We're not talking about Batman in a general sense.
When maybe I missed it. When in the movie do the filmmakers say that, or are you just saying extra information?
Well, I'm saying they say it from the end of Batman Begins, and then they say it throughout, and then they repeat it in extra information.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the canon, if that's the canon we're taking, if that's the frame where we have as viewers, where we say that's the fact of the movie, that's how we're viewing this movie, then I don't necessarily know if I think the movie makes sense anymore.
Okay.
Because if we're viewing this through the lens of our faith, the sins of the Joker are the responsibility of the Joker, and the sins of Batman are the responsibility of Batman.
Right.
My opinion is that the filmmakers setting that as the principle for the film, I guess, I don't know if that, like, you can say that, but I still think that they're individual of each other.
Criminals rise to meet the level of Batman. Criminals go to greater lengths to accomplish what they want to accomplish because of the existence of Batman.
And if we take that as truth in that world, then Batman shouldn't exist. I don't think you can have both.
But again, it's still a question. It's still, so Bruce is sitting there. He asks, have I inspired this madman? He calls the Joker a madman. Have I inspired this?
And I would say no, because I would say no. You're saying the filmmakers would say yes.
I'm saying that's the theme that they're putting forward. I'm talking in overarching themes, not necessarily in individual actions or events.
Yeah, and I would still say that I mean, I guess you would think yes. So therefore, so I guess the next question would be, if the Batman does inspire Joker, if the Joker doesn't exist without the Batman, has everything Batman done up until that point worth it?
Which is the whole point of the movie right there. You just asked the question that is the entire point of the movie.
And I would say yes.
Right.
Because the sins of the Joker are on the Joker. It has nothing to do with the Batman. The Joker existing, I guess I look at it as insane and as psychotic as Heath Ledger's Joker was, that was going to occur regardless of Batman existing or not. And honestly, if Batman doesn't exist, it probably would have been even worse because of the mob before.
Yeah, I just don't think that the Joker rises to prominence without the Batman existing.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the movie does support that a little bit too, now that I think about it, because the whole reason why the Joker is able to gain control is because everybody else, all the other criminals, were afraid of Batman.
Yeah, but then
which I didn't think about before either.
In the interrogation scene, it kind of paints the picture that Joker was just a low-level criminal before the Batman. Because he says, I'm not going back to just ripping off so-and-so, whatever he says, because you complete me.
Yeah, ripping off mob bosses. I
Right.
didn't look at that as him being a low-level criminal. I looked at that as him being him, but existing in a I mean, if he's ripping off mob bosses, I guess I just assumed that was a little bit higher than the guy working for the mob. The guy working for the mob would be the low-level guy. That's how I viewed that.
Yeah.
But maybe I got it wrong.
I view that as again painting the picture that the Joker found his purpose when he found the Batman. When he found Batman, the Joker found his purpose, or what he viewed as his purpose, and because of that, he strived to rise to that purpose, and he doesn't want to go back to what he was before.
Which is supported by I don't want to kill you.
Right.
You complete me.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, there's so many different ways to take
every little
answer
thing.
The questions that it asks to even. I'm sure there are a lot of different questions that it asks that I can't even think of. But that's what makes the movie so good, is because it just continually asks these questions. And I mean, you don't have to watch it that way. I mean, you can watch it and just view it as a fun crime action movie and be done with it and enjoy it. But I think you miss out if that's how you watch it.
Well, I think the conversation that we've been having is the whole fun in digging into the plot of the movie to discern the depths of the movie are why it's so epic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how well thought out, and we said this in Batman Begins, is there's not an ounce of script, there's not an ounce of screen time that is wasted.
Right.
And it's carried out through
100%.
The Dark Knight.
Yep.
But I still think that Batman is justified for existing regardless of whether or not the Joker exists without him.
I do too. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not giving that one up.
Yeah, I'm with you because I even think that Batman was okay in the lie at the end.
Well,
So
I don't. I mean, I was asking you your opinion, but I don't necessarily think I disagree with that either, because the whole point was like Batman's. Even though it was built off of a lie, the point of it was that Gotham needed a hero. Batman isn't a hero.
Yeah.
Batman's whatever Gotham needs.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent's the hero.
Right.
And the Joker, so it's not necessarily and now I'm jumping in on the themes, but the theme of the movie is that, and you said this earlier, where the Joker was trying to corrupt the best of us.
Yeah.
Batman's not the best of Gotham. Harvey Dent is.
Right.
And that's why Batman had to sin so that Harvey Dent, it was covered up that so Harvey Dent could look like the hero.
Yeah.
So you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And that's where it kind of comes full circle, is Batman was choosing to live long enough to become the villain so that Gotham could have Harvey Dent as the dead hero.
Right. So they could have a symbol with a face, I think he says at one point.
Right.
Yeah. Which then that idea carries over into The Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
So, I mean, that the symbol with a face, because Alfred kind of plays the part where he starts, and I don't want to, obviously we're going to talk about this next time, but where Alfred tells Bruce in The Dark Knight Rises that maybe that face is Bruce Wayne's face.
Right.
So, but another question, and I have no idea how long we've been talking, but another question.
We can keep going, but we're at an hour and 20 minutes.
All right.
If we need to split it up into two parts, we can.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we'll need to do that or not, but I don't think this will take extremely long. But this is actually what I had prepared. I had none of that prepared.
Yeah, I didn't either.
None of it. Not a single thing that we talked about so
far. But it's
far.
good.
But I did want to talk about another question that the film asks, is what does it take to overcome evil? Right? How far does a person have to go to overcome evil? And it kind of it gives, does that person themselves have to become evil? Do they have to perpetuate evil against the evildoer? Like, how does a person
Yeah, we've kind of talked about a lot of that already.
Right. How does a person overcome evil? And, that's where...
I mean, the answer is the person can't.
Well, hold on. We're gonna get there. I got some...
You got some goodies?
To go. Yeah. So first, that's the question that's why Bruce is asking Alfred, did you find that thief? And how did you do it? Well, we burned the forest down. That's painting the picture. Is Bruce going to have to burn down all of Gotham in order to get the Joker?
Right.
Is he going to have to burn down the thing that he loves in order to stop the Joker, in order to stop this evil? Right? So what does it take to stop evil? And obviously, all throughout Scripture, we're given examples or given instructions on how to deal with evil, how to face it. So one such verse, Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Okay, so it's the responsibility of the Christian, and we can get further into application of what exactly that means, or exactly what, practically speaking, what do we do? But the principle that's laid out is that we do not become overcome by evil. We do not let evil overtake us, no matter the situation, but rather we continue and persevere in good. And that in and of itself will overcome evil. That's Romans 12:21. Elsewhere talks about whatever is good, whatever is pure, think on these things, focus on these things.
Isn't that in Colossians?
Yeah, it's either Colossians or Philippians. I didn't have it written down. It's one of the two. And so that whole idea of overcoming evil with good can be more difficult than it is to just say that that's what we're supposed to do. Like, practically speaking, it can be a lot more difficult. And many, if not all people, have experienced tragedies, things. I mean, there was one just this week, right? At the hands of true evil. Like, people have experienced trauma, pain, suffering at the hands of true evil. So just to say, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good can be difficult to actually enact. So we might actually be tempted to enact evil against a perpetrator, or to, skip steps in justice to ensure that something is done. And we might even give up, if it's a great enough tragedy or great enough impact on us, we might even give up any effort at all at pursuing what is good. And that would be relatable, understandable, wrong, but understandable. And so when Bruce is talking to Alfred in the wake of this tragedy, which is Rachel blowing up in that building explosion at the hands of the Joker, that's the exact thing that Bruce is wrestling with. How do I get past this? How do I move on? How do I live? How do I continue? How do I persevere in the face of this extreme evil that I'm in conflict with every second? It has caused me all of this pain. The love of my life is gone, has died, is because of this evil that I'm in conflict with every day. And that's exactly what Bruce is struggling with. John 16:33 says, I have said these, this is Jesus, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation or trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Ephesians 6:11 says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. And then 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So we're instructed to take heart in the face of tribulation, which means to be cheerful or to continue courageously in the face of persecution and tribulation. We're called to put on the whole armor of God so that we can stand against the schemes of the devil. And we're called to be sober-minded and to keep watch And then we're also called to overcome evil with good. All of these things entail trusting that evil ultimately does not triumph. We can't do any of those things unless we first have confidence that evil will not win, no matter what. That there is no scenario that exists in the world where evil wins. And we have that assurance. In order to have this type of hope, this type of faith, where we're able to persevere in the face of evil, we're able to overcome persecution that comes our way, we're able to overcome tragedy and struggle that comes at the hands of evil, we're able to overcome terrorist attacks, we're able to overcome anything that comes our way, is because we have to have a faith that evil does not win. And it has to be more than just empty, blind faith to mean anything. It has to be more than just, I say that I believe that. We have to have a reason. We have to have a foundation for believing that. And in Christ, we have that assurance that evil does not triumph, because Christ was killed by evil on the cross, yet he rose again on the third day, defeating death, releasing all who believe in him from the sting, from the penalty of their sin, and bringing about new life. And then furthermore, so there, Christ overcame evil with good. Goodness overcame evil, and we can expect that in Christ, goodness will always overcome evil, especially in an ultimate sense. There will come a time when there's no more evil. So Revelations 20, 1-8. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain, for the former things have passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. Also he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. To the one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. Evil does not triumph. Evil does not win. And if we have our confidence and faith in Jesus Christ and what he has accomplished and what he will do in the future, and we rest on the foundation of the Word of God, we can stand firm in the face of persecution. We can stand firm in the face of tragedy. We can look around. We can serve. We can help people even when we're at our lowest points. We can look around and serve others even when we're at our lowest, because we know by the Word of God in Christ that evil doesn't win.
I think it's a good point to end on. Couldn't said it better myself. That's good. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook. Reminder, Facebook doesn't host the podcast anymore. You'll have to either go to Buzzsprout or Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, any of those, any podcast platform that you choose to utilize. And then jump in on the Facebook group for discussion. We want to cultivate a good discussions on there for the movies a week, before they come out, and then you might find yourself on the podcast, or at least your comment might be read on the podcast.
I misspoke. That was Revelation 21.
Oh, Revelation 21.
20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Next week, the Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
See you next week.